The millionaire's baby cries nonstop on the plane, until Black Maid's daughter did the unthinkable. The piercing wail cut through the air of first class like a siren. Alastair Finch, CEO of Finch Global and a self-made billionaire, felt every eye boring into the back of his bespoke suit as his 6-month-old daughter, Chloe, screamed. 3 hours into the transatlantic flight, the baby hadn't stopped. The flight attendant's practiced smile had long since cracked. "Sir, we've had several complaints. Is there anything else we can try?" Alastair wiped sweat from his brow, desperation etching lines around his eyes. His wife, Victoria, was in Paris on business, and he'd foolishly thought he could handle their daughter alone. "I've tried everything," he whispered hoarsely, bouncing Chloe mechanically. Bottles, toys, walking. Nearby, an elderly woman tooted loudly. A businessman slammed his laptop shut, jamming noise-canceling headphones over his ears. From the economy section, 17-year-old Imani Washington heard the commotion. The heavy curtain separating the cabins couldn't muffle the baby's distress. In 12 hours, she would be landing in London for the International Youth Debate Championship, her one shot at a full college scholarship. She needed rest, but as the baby's cries escalated, something tugged at her conscience. She remembered her little brother, Jamal, and how only she could calm him when he was a colicky infant. Her mother had called it a gift. Before she could second-guess herself, Imani stood up. The flight attendant moving through economy gave her a sharp look. "Ma'am, please remain seated." "That baby's been crying for hours," Imani said, her voice quiet but firm. "I think I might be able to help." The flight attendant's eyes narrowed with suspicion, taking in Imani's worn jeans and public school hoodie. The familiar weight of prejudgment settled on her shoulders. She'd encountered this look countless times before. "First class is for ticketed passengers only." "I understand," Imani said, her voice steady. "But sometimes a solution comes from an unexpected place." Before the flight attendant could respond, the curtain was yanked back, revealing a frazzled Alastair Finch, holding his screaming daughter. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "I'll pay anyone who can get my daughter to stop crying." The powerful man's vulnerability hung in the air. Imani stepped forward. "Sir," she said quietly, "I might be able to help." For a brief moment, doubt flickered across Alastair's face as he took in the young black woman in economy clothing. But desperation quickly overrode everything else. "You have experience with babies?" "My little brother had colic," Imani replied. "May I?" She extended her arms toward the wailing infant. Alastair hesitated only a moment before surrendering his daughter. The entire plane seemed to hold its breath. Then, Imani did the unthinkable. She cradled Chloe expertly, supporting her head while using her other hand to gently apply pressure to specific points on her back. She began to hum, a low rhythmic pattern that vibrated in her chest, swaying in a subtle rocking motion. "She's probably got gas," Imani said quietly, her fingers making small circular motions between the baby's shoulder blades. "My brother was the same way. It's frustrating when no one understands what you're trying to say." Chloe's screams gradually subsided to hiccuping sobs. Her tiny fists unclenched, and her face relaxed from its alarming shade of red. A few more minutes of Imani's gentle ministrations, and Chloe's eyes began to droop. The transformation was miraculous. The entire first-class cabin seemed to exhale collectively as blessed silence settled over them. "How did you do that?" Alastair whispered, his voice hushed with amazement. Imani carefully transferred the now drowsy baby back to her father's arms. "My mom's a housekeeper. She works long hours, so I helped raise my brother. Some things you just learn by doing." Alastair adjusted his hold on Chloe, trying to mimic Imani's technique. "I have a team of pediatricians and specialists, and none of them showed me that." A slight smile touched Imani's lips. "With all due respect, sir, some things can't be learned from experts. They have to be learned from experience." The flight attendant who had blocked Imani now hovered nearby, her expression shifting from suspicion to embarrassment. I owe you a debt of gratitude, Alastair said, studying Imani with new interest. He shifted Chloe to one arm and extended his hand. Alastair Finch. I know who you are, sir, Imani replied, shaking his hand firmly. I'm Imani Washington. Well, Imani Washington, you just saved this flight from a collective breakdown. Please, he gestured to the empty first-class seat beside his own. Join me for the remainder of the flight. Imani hesitated, glancing back toward economy. My bag. I'll have it brought up, Alastair said, nodding to the flight attendant who hurried to comply. As Imani settled into the plush leather seat, the contrast of her circumstances wasn't lost on her. Hours ago, her mother had pressed taxi fare into her palm. Now she was sitting beside one of the wealthiest men in the world. So, Imani, Alastair began once Chloe was sleeping in the bassinet. What brings you to Europe? A debate tournament, sir. The International Youth Championship in London. Alastair's eyebrows rose. Debate? You're a debater. Yes, sir. I'm representing my state. A calculating look entered Alastair's eyes. Fascinating. A debater with rather unusual childcare skills. Where I come from, you learn to be good at many things. Specialization is a luxury. Something in her tone caused Alastair to reassess her. And this tournament in London, it's significant. A full college scholarship if I place in the top 3, Imani said, her voice carefully neutral. Plus, it opens doors. Alastair nodded slowly, processing the information. And your parents? A shadow crossed Imani's face. My mom is. She's a housekeeper. Works double shifts to keep us afloat since my dad passed. An uncomfortable silence settled between them. Mr. Finch, Imani said finally. I should probably return to my seat. I have some case files to review. Nonsense, Alastair insisted. The least I can do is offer you a comfortable seat. Besides, his eyes flickered to his sleeping daughter. I may need your expertise again. The plane hit a pocket of turbulence, causing Chloe to stir. Both froze, watching anxiously until she settled back into sleep. Tell me about debate, Alastair said quietly. I've always found it fascinating. Like business, you have to anticipate your opponent's moves. It's about seeing patterns, Imani explained, on familiar ground now. And understanding that every argument has consequences. It's not just about winning, it's about understanding the other side so well you can argue their position for them. That's how you find the real weaknesses. Their conversation flowed more easily after that, moving from debate theory to business strategy, from Imani's tournament preparations to Alastair's early days as an entrepreneur. The vast differences in their backgrounds seemed less significant as they discovered unexpected commonalities in their approaches to problems. Midway through the flight, as they shared the first-class meal, Alastair posed a question. You mentioned a scholarship. I assume that means college is otherwise out of reach. Financially, yes. My grades are good enough, but even with aid, the top programs are expensive. Alastair nodded thoughtfully. Which schools are you considering? Howard, Georgetown. Depends on how I do in London. All excellent institutions, Alastair said. There's value in having a solid foundation before you build. As the plane began its initial descent, he regarded Imani thoughtfully. I have a proposition for you. Imani raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Your tournament in London concludes Sunday. My wife and I will be in Paris for a week. I'd like to offer you a temporary position as Chloe's caretaker during our stay. Fully compensated, of course, at well above market rate. Imani blinked, taken aback. You want to hire me as a nanny? I prefer child care consultant, Alastair said with a hint of a smile. The position includes private accommodations at our hotel, all expenses covered, and a salary that should significantly supplement your college fund, regardless of the tournament outcome. The offer hung in the air, unexpected and potentially life-altering. Alastair Finch, who could hire anyone in the world, was offering her a position of trust with his child. "May I have some time to consider it? I'd need to discuss it with my mother." "Of course," Alastair nodded, handing her a business card. "My private number. Let me know your decision after your tournament." As the plane touched down in Paris, Alastair turned to Imani with genuine gratitude. "Regardless of your decision, thank you, Imani. Not just for helping with Chloe, but for the conversation. It's been illuminating. Sometimes the most valuable arguments aren't the ones you win, Mr. Finch," Imani said. "They're the ones that change your perspective." As they walked through the airport, the billionaire and the debater from a world away, something fundamental had shifted. A connection formed miles above the Atlantic, bridging worlds that rarely intersected on the ground below. Victoria Finch was waiting at the private terminal, her expression morphing from irritation to confusion at the sight of the young woman walking beside her husband. "Alastair," she said, taking Chloe into her arms. "I was expecting a nanny." "Who is this?" Alastair explained the circumstances of their meeting. Victoria's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose as she assessed Imani, her skepticism softening as she noticed her daughter's contentment. "You managed the entire flight without a meltdown. That's miraculous." "Imani has quite the gift," Alastair said. "In fact, I've offered her a position for our stay here." Victoria's surprise was evident, but she adapted quickly. "A debate tournament? Impressive." Alastair had arranged for a car to take Imani to the train station for her trip to London. "Good luck," Victoria said, a sincere warmth in her voice. "I hope we'll see you again soon." As Imani walked away, she heard Chloe begin to fuss. "Here," Alastair said behind her. "Let me show you something, Victoria." "It's all about the pressure points," Imani smiled to herself. A door had opened, revealing possibilities she hadn't imagined when she boarded the plane. The train sped toward London. Imani's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Alastair Finch. Just wanted to wish you luck tomorrow. Chloe says thanks again." Imani stared at the message, a smile tugging at her lips. She saved the number and replied, "Thank you, sir. Give Chloe my best. Remember, firm but gentle pressure, and breathe with her, not against her." The response came almost immediately. "Sage advice for business negotiations as well. Keep us posted." The tournament hotel was modest, but buzzed with energy. Imani checked in and prepared for the morning's first match. Her first opponent was a formidable debater from Germany, known for his aggressive style. Imani knew she'd have to be patient, let him extend his arguments, and then find the subtle flaws. The first day was a blur of logic, rhetoric, and intense concentration. By evening, Imani had advanced through the preliminary rounds, securing her place in the next day's quarterfinals. She sent a brief update to Alastair, surprised by his continued interest. His response came quickly. "Excellent progress. Chloe has slept through the night twice using your techniques. Keep us posted on tomorrow's matches." The tournament's second day brought increased pressure. Imani advanced through her quarterfinal and then her semi-final match, her focus absolute. The victory put her in the finals against a celebrated champion from Singapore. That evening, a call came through from her mother, Brenda. Her voice was thick with emotion when Imani told her about making the finals. "I knew it. My champion." "Just the finals, Mom," Imani cautioned. "Oh, before I forget," Brenda said. "There was a call for you from some foundation. The Finch Foundation for Educational Excellence. They said they were considering you for their leadership program. Wanted to talk after the tournament." Imani's pulse quickened. Had Alastair already set this in motion? Did they leave a contact name? Someone named Ms. Albright. Very professional sounding. After the call, Imani sat on the edge of her bed. The scholarship had been her goal, but Alistair's interest opened doors she hadn't known existed. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. Get some rest. Big day tomorrow. Remember what you told me about Chloe? Tension transfers. Stay calm. Trust your preparation. Finals day dawned. The match against the Singaporean champion was a strategic battle of wits. For 3 hours, the position remained balanced. In the 4th hour, her opponent began pressing, but Imani had trained for this, pushing through the mental exhaustion. She found a subtle flaw in his closing argument, a single contradiction that unraveled his entire case. With quiet precision, she dismantled his position. The hall erupted in applause as the judges announced her victory. Imani had won. She was the new international youth debate champion. As tournament officials prepared for the award ceremony, a woman in a tailored suit appeared at her elbow, smartphone in hand. Congratulations, Ms. Washington. Mr. Finch would like to speak with you. She handed Imani the phone. Imani, spectacular victory, Alistair's voice came through. We watched the live stream. Even I could appreciate the brilliance of that final rebuttal. Thank you, sir, Imani said, still processing everything. Ms. Albright has information about the Foundation's leadership program. We'd like to discuss it with you in Paris, if you're still considering our offer. The award ceremony was a blur. The scholarship was hers, but it now seemed just one part of a larger picture. Afterward, Ms. Albright approached. Mr. Finch has arranged for your travel to Paris this evening, if that suits your schedule. Imani called her mother, whose joyful shout was so loud she had to hold the phone away from her ear. When Imani explained the situation with Alistair, the Paris offer, and the Foundation, Brenda grew thoughtful. This billionaire who suddenly wants to help, you trust him? It was a fair question. I think I do, Imani said slowly. He could have just thanked me and moved on. This feels genuine. You've always been a good judge of character, Brenda said. If you feel this is right, then you should explore it. Imani turned to Ms. Albright. I'd like to accept Mr. Finch's offer. Both offers. The accommodations in Paris were a suite larger than her family's entire apartment. The next morning, Imani joined the Finch family for breakfast. Chloe, strapped into a high chair, cooed and waved her arms at the sight of her. She remembers you, Victoria remarked. Over breakfast, Alistair outlined his proposal. The short-term position would involve helping with Chloe. The longer-term opportunity through the Finch Foundation would provide not just financial support for college, but mentorship and internships. I've built my career on recognizing talent in unexpected places, Alistair explained. What you demonstrated on that plane wasn't just a knack for child care. It was emotional intelligence, problem-solving under pressure, and the ability to bridge worlds. Those are rare skills, Imani. What my husband is trying to say, Victoria added, is that we'd like to invest in your future beyond debate. May I ask why? Imani asked. There must be thousands of talented young people you could support. Alistair and Victoria exchanged a glance. Frankly, Imani, Victoria said, what you did on that plane forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our own assumptions. We've built walls around our world, walls that keep out perspectives and wisdom we clearly need. Different backgrounds lead to different kinds of knowledge, Imani said. Precisely, Victoria agreed. And that's why diversity of experience matters. The week in Paris unfolded. Imani cared for Chloe, teaching Alistair and Victoria the techniques her mother had passed down. One evening, Alistair entered the nursery with uncharacteristic hesitation. Could you show me again? I can't seem to get it right. The vulnerability in the billionaire's request struck Imani. Here was one of the most powerful men in the world asking for guidance from a 17-year-old whose mother cleaned houses for a living. In this room, with this specific knowledge, she was the authority. On his final evening, Alistair invited Imani for a walk. The Foundation's offer remains open, he said. Full support through college, mentorship, internships at my company. No strings attached. It's an incredible opportunity, Imani said. But I need to be sure it's not just charity. Alistair stopped. Let me be clear, Imani. This isn't charity. It's recognition of exceptional talent. Our paths would never have crossed without that flight. The worlds we inhabit are separated by systems designed to keep them distinct. My foundation can't fix the entire system, but it can build bridges where opportunities arise. He continued, after watching you with Chloe, Victoria and I are establishing a new initiative through the foundation, a program to identify and develop emotional intelligence and caregiving skills in underserved communities. Based on the wisdom passed down through families like yours. The magnitude of this left Imani speechless. I'd be honored to accept, she said finally. The next morning, as Imani prepared to depart, Victoria presented her with a gift, a beautiful, handcrafted wooden case containing an antique debater's timer and a first-edition collection of famous speeches. A handwritten note read, "For the champion who showed us that the most valuable arguments are the ones that change the board. With gratitude, Alistair, Victoria, and Chloe Finch." As the plane lifted off from Paris, a final text came from Alistair. Safe travels, Imani. This is just the first move in what I hope will be a long and meaningful game. The most powerful move isn't always the most obvious one. Sometimes, it's a quiet act of empathy that changes the entire structure of the game, opening pathways that weren't visible before. In reaching across the aisle of that plane, Imani Washington had made just such a move. And in the game of life, such moves continue to resonate long after the final argument is made.